Okay, let's kick it off. So, welcome everyone to this lunch webinar. Today we're going to listen to Karolina Medrius. She has been working for system verification for slightly more than 10 years in a number of different positions, but she has more experience previously before she started working at the system verification. And today she's going to tell you a little bit about that and the mindset she has brought with her on this journey. Nowadays, she's also has left the consultant role, partly on mainly focus on being a consultant manager. And she's also going to tell you slightly more about that. My name is Magnus C. Olsson. I've been working with system verification for more than, or something like 13 years now. And I think this with a mindset is a very interesting thing. I've been working very much with process improvement and changes in different organizations. And normally what you start with is updating or buying the new tools, and then you're trying to adapt the processes. But at the end, the most important thing to work with is actually to work with your mindset. So I think this is going to be a very interesting webinar. But if you do have questions during the webinar, please post them in the chat, and there will be a couple of minutes afterwards where we will go through the questions, or if we open up for the questions there as well. And also, please, everyone, mute your microphones so we don't have any disturbing noises in the background. So thank you very much, and then I hand it over to you, Karolina.
Thank you very much, Magnus, and welcome everybody. I will be the entertainer during, if you are in Sweden time at least, your lunch break. So I hope everybody has gotten something tasty to munch on while you enjoy this. So welcome to the Tester Mindset, not only for testers. Here I will share parts of my personal journey together with thoughts and insights I've gathered along the way. My journey is, of course, my own, so there is no absolute truth that if you do exactly as I have, then everything will be perfect. And you might also have differing opinions depending on how your own journey has been. And that is, of course, awesome. I do love a good discussion, and let's have that after the webinar. So I hope this inspirational talk will make you reflect on your own path and experiences, and maybe encourage you to take on a new challenge, big or small. Long time ago, in a galaxy not far away, it was actually just the neighboring town in Lund, I started my career in test automation. Since then, I have moved on through and back and between different roles, some being my actual working title, but in many cases, not, as it sometimes is. So I usually therefore introduce myself as a Swiss Army knife of quality assurance. I basically have done everything except developing. So I've had a wide career path. I started as a tester, was very confident and enjoyed myself a lot. But the more I worked with it, I discovered that testing was usually pushed up against a wall because of deadlines, but at the same time, deliveries were late, information was late, and it made it hard to work in that environment. So I interested myself in test leadership or test management. So I evolved in that. I started working as a test leader, thinking that now all the problems will be solved. Test will always be working good as long as I'm on board. And then I discovered another challenge, that is the quality of requirements. So if you don't have good quality requirements, or there are no requirements, then of course it's going to be a very problematic testing turn, right? So then I interested myself in requirements and started working with requirements, and thought that now I'm going to ensure that everything will be perfectly fine when doing testing, because the requirements will be as good as I would have wanted them. Only to discover that you actually can start a project without having any requirements at all, because the project manager is in a tough spot, or you have to just push things forward. So then, of course, naturally, I interested myself for project management and started to working as that, trying to figure out the best way to organize things so you get as good of a quality output as possible. So I've been working a lot in this vicinity of those different roles, switching back and forth. And the more senior I became, I also did analysis, helping companies scrutinize where they had quality issues, be it organizational quality issues or product quality issues. And I also started holding presentations such as this one, either sharing the quality gospel or my own insights. And I also work part-time teaching courses, preparing students getting fresh out and starting as testers or ISTQB certifications. And it is actually true that you learn a lot from becoming a teacher. So I have been working with quality across the whole organization. My last assignment was as a test team lead in an organization of about 50 professional testers and product owner. So now, as Magnus mentioned, I'm a proud consultant manager, supporting 28 lovely test consultants since almost 2 months back. And yeah, I feel like a kid saying that because, you know, every month matters if you ask them their age. So thinking back on what insights I had gained throughout my quality assurance life, I realized that even though I worked in several roles, I'm still always driven by the same fundamental idea, and that is quality. No matter which hat I wear, all my assignments, short or long, have been about introducing or grow the idea of quality and a quality mindset. I can thus proudly state that one of my strongest passions and drivers in life is quality, and quality as a mindset, or as we call it here, the tester mindset. And that is also the title of this webinar, but really we shouldn't narrow it down to just testers and testing. Quality is so much bigger than just test, even though test is a fundamental and vital part of it. Helping organizations shift from just thinking cost efficiency throughout resource management and planning for deadlines. Instead, we want to shift and really work out that there is quality in all work performed, which gives benefits both in the testing department and as the whole project. And thus, I want to challenge the view that some people might carry, and that is that quality assurance and quality improvement is only for testers. And this is what this talk is about. And to be clear, I will throughout this talk refer to all quality assurance professionals as testers, be it a test leader or a test automation specialist. I will just call them testers here, so nobody gets upset with that. So what is quality? We generally associate high or good quality with something that will work with minimum effort, that you can trust that it will work, that will last for a long time, and maybe costs a little bit more, but is an investment to keep away headaches and, you know, associated with bad quality because you can't trust it. And if you look it up in a dictionary, the definition of quality that says here is if the quality of a product is high, then that means that it is fit for purpose. And fit for purpose is something that is we are going to return to through this talk. It is important to define what that purpose is. If you don't understand the purpose, it's going to be really hard to create a good quality product. It will become unfit for purpose because you don't understand the purpose. And if it's not fit for purpose, it means it will not perform the desired functionality in an optimal way or break easily. And it's important also to understand that definition of what is fit for purpose or what is high quality might also be, you know, differing from person to person. For example, if I take a smartphone, which everybody has, for me, it's an invaluable tool. I love to use it. I have all my life in there. But for my dad, that is not really that tech forward. He actually hates everything that is smartphones and wants to have a simpler phone because whenever he uses it, he feels that he is lost or that the phone crashes on him because it ends up in, you know, different states that he's not comfortable with. The only thing he wants to do is, you know, dial a call. And that makes that our definition of the quality of this product will differ, even though the quality of the product might be good, you know, it works as it's supposed to be, the impression of quality might be different. So fit for purpose and you know, that its quality is understood differently was a head turner for me, and also explains some of the challenges we see when trying to improve quality, because we are talking about different things. So in software development, software quality is defined by either the degree to which a system component or process meets specified requirements. This matches the verification part in quality assurance. Are we building the product right? And the second part is the degree to which a system component and process meets customer and user needs and expectations. And this matches the validation part in quality assurance. Are we building the right product? Then we are in a very special situation nowadays, how software development actually works. We have had a huge technological, evolvement that has affected of how software development is managed today compared to just 10 or 15 years ago. So software projects nowadays are immensely complex. They are large. They simply can't be equated with assembly line works, which most people naturally go to when trying to understand of how to make development more efficient. In an assembly line, it's perfectly clear what each worker does, be it adding bolts to a piece of metal, and it can be automated. But each software project usually breaks new ground, while an assembly line always creates the same product according to a predefined process. And that means that we also operate under slightly different forces of nature here, sometimes directly opposing common sense and best practices that we have learned from an assembly line. And big differences or big benefits with having a tester mindset and focusing on quality in software development today is really necessary. So I'm going to add 4 examples here. And one of them is it's easier to mentally shift and do more changes if the product is fit for purpose. And that means that if we are focusing on quality and having a tester mindset, we always ensure that we remove waste and ensure that the platform is ready to build on, no matter the changes that will come. And changes will come. That is the only constant today, that change will come. So if we have a stable, a good quality platform to build upon, we are prepared for that change and we can actually get a business advantage. The second is thinking quality plus testing also means we continuously measure the quality. And that means that we follow up and base our decisions on the facts that come as a result from doing testing. So not basing our decisions on gut feeling, and it is almost impossible to do today since it's so complex everywhere. And instead of, using data and the results we've had from testing to base our decisions on. The third one is stop wasting time and money on redoing stuff we could have done right from start. And that means, for example, making overly ambitious plans, typical waterfall model projects that stretch 5 years into the future because nobody knows where we will be in those 5 years. And committing to that plan will cause a lot of waste if we then after 5 years discover that this is a product that nobody wants anymore. So it's important to do the fail fast principle from agile ways of working. That means that you try a small thing first, you do a proof of concept or etc. You test it, you evaluate it, you have some feedback on it, and then you continue if either the product is good enough, the users enjoy it or like it, or think it's positive, or it is maybe technological new advantage you want to try out if it actually works as it was in your mind. And the fourth one is that we are in an organization in transition environment. The workforce nowadays knows its value and they are more likely to move if they are unhappy or bored. And we see that people stay shorter and shorter in different assignments or at their work because it's good to move around and they will not sit at one company for their whole lifetime. And that means that it's a huge risk if you, for example, have one quality responsible in a team or organization, and that knowledge lies only with that person. So we want to add padding by having the whole team having a shared quality responsibility and knowledge. So if one person leaves, because they will leave sooner or later, you have this knowledge inside the team already, and you are and it's possible to cover for it. Not so you just get a new person in ready to make the same mistakes because that knowledge was lost. And this is always also a fun thing to look at: numbers. I love numbers and backing things up with data. It makes discussions a lot more easier. So the numbers I'm going to show you here is from a researcher called James Martin, who is researching in software development processes. And his research has shown that bugs are introduced in different phases, and maybe not always those phases in software development you would think. So when you do a short investigation amongst a crowd, most people think that most bugs are introduced in coding, while it's actually the opposite way around. Over half of all bugs have been introduced already in the requirement state. So that means that there is a shift here of understanding of where you actually need to put in quality assurance improvements. It's not good enough with only testing. That is the safety net to catch in case some things might go wrong, but you need to be working with quality throughout the whole software lifecycle, not only in testing. And if you look at that number, 56% of all the bugs have been introduced already in requirements phase. Looking a bit closer on that number, you see that half of those then are due to badly written, unclear, ambiguous, contradicting, or faulty requirements, while the other half is due to incomplete or left out requirements. For example, forgetting to add that a smartphone should be able to make phone calls because it is so commonly understood that you just miss it because it's so obvious, or maybe not. And there's also a cost with this low quality. And usually when you talk about cost of quality, you talk about a direct cost and a hidden cost. And it's usually illustrated with the iceberg, where the thing you see is only like the tip of the iceberg, the small part, while the hidden part is actually the majority. So the direct cost when it comes to low quality is, for example, doing the testing action. It is plannable, you see it, you know how much it's going to cost you, you can make a budget estimate. Doing bug fixing and reporting bugs. This is the direct cost, but this is just the tip of the iceberg. The hidden cost is, for example, regression in software, doing patches, maintenance of multiple versions because you cannot move to one version because you need to maintain the second one because of fault in the latest one, fines, downtime cost, loss of market share, loss of business, loss of income, bad will to the brand, rework, and hot fixes. So there's a lot of things hiding underneath the tip of the iceberg. And if you look at the comparison between direct cost and hidden cost, the hidden cost is actually 5 times larger than the direct cost. And this is, things that we typically cannot or will not or won't try to predict. And also one fun fact, but interesting fact, is that 40 to 50% of project cost is spent on rework, not on new development. So almost half of the budget we have on a project is spent on doing bug fixes, rework, changing things, mending things, instead of pushing new features out. So looking at these numbers, it seems very obvious that increasing the overall quality in project work would have a huge benefit on cost and return of investment, and of course the quality of the end product. And with a decent strategy for quality, you would get the same outcome, but with much less money and time spent. That is the idea, of course. And of course, one additional benefit would be to have better cost and time predictability, as cost and time for quality work are added to the project budget and plans instead of becoming an unforeseen penalty for unlucky projects later on. But investing in quality can, of course, be a bit counterintuitive. For example, I don't feel like I'm earning money when I go to the dentist. But if I don't go to the dentist, the lack of not going to the dentist might turn up as a very high cost later on. Same thing with quality assurance. It doesn't give any revenue by investing in quality improvements, but a lack of it will turn up as a cost later on. So balancing this is important. So cost will always end up somewhere. Our choice is to select where and when. and unveil the thing hiding behind under the water of the iceberg, and instead putting head in and avoiding putting the head in the sand and wishing it away by not knowing, just ignoring that there is a huge iceberg hiding under the water. So looking at those statistics, quality is a question for everybody involved in a software project, not only the tester. From the customer, the user, the one paying it, the product owner, the product manager, requirement specialist, developer, and the tester should be involved in this. And quality is central and involves everybody, not only the tester. Okay, so why do the developers insist on adding bugs? What happens when the tester's mindset is not present? This happens. You get questions like this one. This one was actually given to me from a frustrated client who didn't want to pay for testing and couldn't understand why he should, as the requirements were perfectly clear in his opinion, why he should be paying for extra quality assurance. And here the tip is to take a deep breath and try to explain the challenges of software development, and that many bugs actually aren't Easter eggs that the developers put in as Friday fun because they are bored, but most likely comes from the fact that requirements are unclear because they are written from a context of the customer, and the developers and customers don't know each other yet and maybe don't have the same context. And the fact that you can't know beforehand exactly how code will behave until you actually test it. So if you order something, you want it to work. Either you pay for somebody to check it or you do it yourself. You don't buy a house unchecked, even if you expect certain attributes, such as a roof and walls that can stand the rain and snow. If you do skip checking the house before you buy it, you do it at your own risk, and you know that you are to blame if faults appear. And many software projects are more expensive than houses, so why shouldn't you check software projects? So there are a lot of telltale signs that give away when the tester mindset has not really been present. And here are a couple of examples that I have run into myself. So the first one, why do developers insist on adding bugs, is connected to not understanding how and why bugs appear. It's not something that's added. It is just the complexity and working with requirements, getting everybody to understand what we are actually developing and why. And that is, something that will take time before you actually are on the same page. Then there's also that some people believe that they are too important for test work. It could be a client, ordering something, but then they don't want to test because that's beneath them, that's below their pay grade. They don't have time for it. They just expect things to work and they don't want to do it. And in worst case, they might even outsource the acceptance, asking somebody else, maybe a professional tester, to do the acceptance. That works in some context, but if you order something, you really need to ensure that you got what you ordered. So this sloppiness is not good, and it is a clear sign that the tester mindset is not present in this organization. Then there is testing in production. There is no such thing as testing in production. Why do we test? We test because we want to find out in a confined, secure environment what will happen, be able to predict how a software will behave beforehand, before we release it out into the free world. So if it's already out in the free world, then why are we testing? It could be information gathering, but then it's mostly monitoring and other tasks. It's not testing in production. And this is also closely connected to lack of live-like test environments. If you are running tests, you do it because you want to be able to predict how the software is behaving in the live environments. But if your environment is not live-like or very far away, then even though if you're running all the tests, it will not be able to predict how it will behave in a different environment, how the software is going to work. And thus we are basically wasting it. So it's very important that you understand that you need to have a good enough live-like environment in order to use testing to the greatest benefit. And then we also have when efficiency or the artifacts of agile ways of working or the tester mindset has gone completely overboard. You have, for example, the walking skeleton architecture. That is, if an organization, they might have read parts of agile ways of working, that you should always do the minimum viable product and you should remove waste relentlessly, then they think that this is the only thing we should be doing. We add lots of minimum viable products, small pieces that can't really sustain their own weight. They are not scalable, they are not maintainable, and you have this walking skeleton architecture that is just a complete nightmare to try to run because you haven't been developing in order for it to survive in the long run. There's also the hero mentality that you can see in some places where, of course, you should always encourage people saving the day, helping out, doing their share, saving the company from, maybe very tricky bug that nobody knows how to fix and it's costing money. Of course, you should encourage that person if they fix it. But if this becomes the culture, that you, for example, have a developer that every month needs to go, to the other side of the world, they get paid extra for it, they fix it, they come back as heroes, they feel seen by the managers when they do this, there is a very low incentive for that person to do proactive work and prevent that this issue happen from start, which of course is more cost effective to do preventive work instead of fixing it and doing this whole superhero mentality thing in the end. At least it's costing more for the company and can cause bad will that whenever they release things, it's not going to work. Then there's the 100% utilization. This is efficiency fault, that you think that everybody should be working 100%. That's really affected that everybody always has something to do, which means that there is no room for innovation. There's no room for improving quality. There's no room for thought. There's no room to have a buffer for introducing changes, which means that you're always going to be stuck at the same quality level. And the last one, template terror, when you have basically just gone completely overboard with adding processes to everything to prevent issues. But the problem is that the processes are so heavy that everybody hates them. It takes so much time. Nobody really, it doesn't really give value to anybody because nobody really understands why they are still doing it. And that means that people usually try to, escape it completely, and it results in total chaos because you have this process heaviness that doesn't really help anywhere. Okay, so we made a pretty good case why quality is not only a tester thing or problem, and instead requires a lot more people to be involved and responsible. And it would be a heavy burden to put on the shoulders of one single person, especially when you live every day in a project with fires to extinguish every day because of quality issues. Then it's hard to find the time and energy to make a lasting improvement. So even if a single test then can be the one that drives quality improvement, there has to be an overall desire to want to improve the quality for it to succeed. Otherwise, it will never be prioritized, implemented, or stick, because we as humans are not so keen on change. And this work needs to happen continuously from the start of the project until the end. Quality isn't something you can paint on in the end. So it has to be with you all the time, always. So it is important to notice that nothing is ever only the tester's problem, but everybody's problem. So test doesn't produce anything other than test cases and reports. Both don't actively build the product, but tests provide information and independent feedback whether the product is what it is supposed to be or not. So as a tester, you need help driving the change of quality improvement, both in the product directly and indirectly through improving ways of working. Okay, so what is the tester mindset then? We have been talking a lot about it. So as quality is when something is fit for its purpose, the tester mindset aims at ensuring to find gaps when the product or service will not be fit for its purpose. As the definition of fit for purpose can vary, the tester will try to identify different users and understand the user perspective of these different perspectives. The goal is that the user the goal that the user wants to achieve in the system needs to support that goal in an effortless enough way. The fit for purpose is in many times achievable if you're smart and work with quality in a structured way, but sometimes in some cases it will just not balance up with maybe what the customer is willing to pay for said quality. Typically, you then narrow down the scope of functionality if you can't guarantee a reasonable expected level of quality for what is important. So it's important to know what the users or buyers need and really think about quality, and then be strategic when defining this fit for purpose. And working to prevent defects. So testing history started really early on, about in the 50s. Then you did something like debugging, which is still done today, but usually by developers. It grew into proving that requirements were met. Then in the 70s, 80s, it became a destructive phase. You try to break systems in order to see how stable they were. Later on, you moved more into evaluation and measure the quality. And then late 80s, you moved into being more proactive and preventing defects from occurring at all. So doing this by root cause analysis and finding the real issues behind defects. For example, knowledge gaps, collaboration issues, and bad tool support. And this is something that a tester mindset always contains. You always think about how to be able to prevent defects, identify and understand the users, and being pragmatic about what should be added compared to the quality, the value we have. So the tester mindset also encourages certain personality traits, the one I listed here: curiosity, responsibility towards a greater good, empathy, objectivity, eye for detail without losing the horizon, and laziness. I'm going to get back to that one. So this sounds kind of cool. Like, this is a really great person, right? Not only a tester, this is actually a good colleague you would like. And I can say that this is kind of similar to, having been a teacher for ISTQB, I need to add something from it. There was a very fluffy chapter around ethics that also talked about what a tester should aspire to be, or what the perfect tester is. And the description of that was, as successful testers are typically experienced, curious, professional, pessimist, with a critical eye and attention to details, and good communicators. So this too sounds kind of cool. Who doesn't want to have this skill set, no matter the job you're doing, not only testing? And this is exactly it. The list is an ideal tester, but it's also a great model for what skills and traits to evolve to be successful, as a human being, both in work life and privately. Who doesn't want a partner or colleague that is a good communicator, objective, and not blaming when stating that something is amiss in the relationship? So it is a great platform to become a really awesome tester, if that is your ambition, but it's also how to naturally grow your box and be able to take on new challenges and roles throughout life. And getting back to the laziness, we do like to see ourselves as superheroes from time to time, right? So how does laziness come in here? I can say openly, I'm a lazy person, but lazy people can also be very smart people, because we want to do as little as possible to reach the desired goal. Unfortunately, I also have an eye for detail, as many testers do, and a tendency to perfectionism. So the lowest level is not always that low. So especially then, you have to be smart, enter quality and a tester mindset. So why waste time and effort on something that doesn't matter? Or why doing something the hard way just because it has always been that way, if there might be an easier way to do it? So the whole concept of being smart through laziness is actually the same that drives effectiveness. So getting the same results, but with less effort, or getting better results with the same effort by tweaking it, also is a fundamental part of working with quality improvements. And in testing, we very commonly need to be very effective and creative with limited resources. Thus, a lifetime of laziness practice, aka effectiveness training, can actually be a very positive thing. So how has a background in quality assurance helped me in other roles? By always having a tester mindset working in the background of my mind, I've had great benefits, in my opinion. It has facilitated a very fruitful career, Very much also because I found a supporting partner in my employer since 10 years who understood quality and supported me in my challenges. So that is also a good tip, to always find a good promoter that could help you grow within your challenges. Starting with requirements engineering and business analysis, which I have been working as. Testing and requirements are two poles of the same thing. One cannot exist without the other. So without requirements, it's difficult to test. And without tests, there is nothing defining how the solution actually complies with requirements. So, and also both testers and requirements engineers do structured work, finding alternative paths and defining what is the desired functionality and quality of the product. And as we see in statistics, a lot of defects originate in requirements, thus improving the quality in requirements is actually very proactive test work, preventing defects from occurring. So by reviewing requirements, when testers collaborate with requirements engineers, asking how things are supposed to be working outside a happy flow, this is the earliest possible testing, and here we do great quality improvements. So I have always been interested in requirements, trying to specify something as good enough that nobody can misunderstand it, and it's actually harder than you might think. So I landed my first requirement engineering assignment by just pointing out a serious flaw in combination of being prepared and able to grasp the opportunity. So I was part of a delegation of stakeholders. My project manager couldn't attend. I was the test leader, and we were sent over to meet a third-party contractor to ensure good quality assurance practices for my part, while the delegation were supposed to discuss requirements. And we were sitting there, a big boardroom meeting. The project manager of the contractor started asking clarifying questions for the requirements to the stakeholder delegation, which was us. And lots of people were giving answers that were contradicting to each other, or they couldn't answer. And that led to that the third-party contractor, they tried to help by providing a solution that was easiest for them, and they also added the budget cost and the time it would take for us to get it, because there was so much uncertainty to it. So I pointed out to my project manager when I got back that this is actually not going to work. I don't know what I'm going to test because the requirements are very vague. So he just asked me, can you fix it? And I did. So that was my first requirements engineer job. 1 month later, we had requirements, and we actually got a much better price tag and a better timeline for the projects, and it actually turned out successful. So from that point, when I worked with requirements, I've been thinking how I, as a tester, would have wanted requirements defined, asking questions and defining how the system is and isn't supposed to work. And just like the tester, a good requirements engineer is a spider in the web, gathering all the right answers and finding out how the system should and shouldn't work. The tester has usually a better knowledge of how the system is working, while a requirements engineer is focusing on how the system should be working, but still needs to know how the system is working. So even though they are a little bit different, they still have a lot of overlap. So working as a BA or a requirements engineer, I simply switched between the role of doing requirements and using the tester mindset, ensuring that I was always writing requirements that were testable, that I would have wanted how they should look like in order to be able to write test cases later on. And this later enabled me to work full-time as a BA for, in avionics, creating an airport monitoring system, which was one of the most fun assignments I've had. But this is because I always had this tester behind my ear whispering of, is this testable? Is this actually going to work? Oh, there we go. Moving on to agile leaders. So testing means feedback, to gather information on quality, most often in order to identify bugs so they can be removed, but not only. It's the feedback thing. And looking at the Agile Manifesto and SAFe framework, which almost every company races to try to implement, this builds on feedback. First, you try out your hypothesis in a proof of concept, or you start implementing small parts or pieces, the fundamentals. Then you test it and feed the result back into the feedback loop in order to determine if the idea was good or sound, if the solution holds, if we are using the correct tools and ways of working before continuing. This to ensure you adapt often enough to steer away from problems or waste. So looking at the two roles that are defined and specified, except for the system developers, who are a group of people that could have multiple roles, the Scrum Master and the Product Owner are the protectors of two aspects of quality. The Scrum Master is responsible for the team delivery, helping the team to work more coordinated, efficient, and with better precision and predictability, preferably increasing the delivery speed and scope compared to before the Agile journey was initiated. So the Scrum Master guides the team to improve their ways of working, defining the definition of done in order to ensure the delivery from the team is as optimum as it needs to be. And this means that the Scrum Master is responsible for the delivery quality. So it's not unusual to actually find a tester or a previous tester in this role. Why? Because of the quality aspect. Testers are used to drive quality improvements and guard the quality. And this is very similar to the work of a Scrum Master, coaching and challenging the team to always become better so that the team delivery is as good as it can become with as little effort put in. The product owner, on the other hand, is responsible for the product, gathering input from stakeholders and ensuring what is added to the product will provide the biggest value to the product and company as a whole, but also ensuring that the product is stable, has a balanced technical depth compared to the risk appetite, and plan the plans ahead. The product roadmap, where this product needs, where the project or product needs to go in the future, so that new features can be added without disrupting already existing functions and characteristics. So the product owner is commonly called the value maximizer. And that means that the product owner needs to balance the functional scope versus the quality attributes. And this is exactly one of the characteristics that we had when defining the tester mindset earlier. So the product owner does this to prevent future issues. For example, if too much new stuff is added to the product and maintenance has been deprioritized, which means that we could cause jeopardy to the product, which could cause failures in the future. So the product owner is responsible for the product quality and ensures this by defining good work descriptions to the team, epics, features, user stories, combined with clear acceptance criteria when a feature can be seen as delivered by the team. And they also work with risk management and prioritizations, always focusing on what brings the biggest value and lowers the risk as much as possible, which is the daily life of a tester, because we always work with risk and prioritizations here. We can't do everything. So this is actually a very good preparation to be working with risk management prioritizations as a tester in order to become a good product owner. And in my world, a good product owner also checks what they requested, similar to what I mentioned previously, meaning that they roll up the sleeves and either do some testing themselves or are involved in testing, doing pair testing if there's an accessibility or technical limitation issue. A good product owner always ensures that they got what they ordered and then give the acceptance. So a product owner that has a requirement and a tester background, utilizing a tester mindset in their daily work, has surely increased their chances of succeeding in their role. And this is exactly what I did. I decided to try it out as a product owner. I had not formally held that role, but I described my previous experiences according to what I just said, bringing out the attributes and skills as proof, and point out that I had what it meant to work as a product owner. And that actually worked very well for me because I got the job, of course. And then finally, project management and leadership. So testing is all about people, their collaboration and communication. And quality always begins with team members who approach their work with a good quality end product in mind, which of course will affect how they will work to get to that quality level they aspire to. And as the bringer of not always so great news, there is a bug. You have to become a skilled communicator, focusing on collaboration over battles, on who is right or wrong and whose fault the bug was, and being objective and fact-focused, understanding how the recipient might feel when you deliver the news, and always talking, double-checking, coordinating, confirming, and following up to ensure everybody is on board and ensuring you have the latest and greatest information in order to do your job correctly. So basically the skill to make other people truly understand, sometimes a perspective differing from their own, not to feel threatened, and getting influence or being open to influence to care for quality. So communication and teamwork skills are crucial in leadership, and you actually practice this a lot working as a tester. And while being good communicators and spiders in the net, testers tend to see the bigger picture and work towards improving that, not only make it comfortable for themselves and the closest vicinity. If we would be comfortable to ourselves in the closest vicinity, we would probably never file a defect, because finding a defect and filing it causes more work for the team, and also as the messenger of the bad news, you might become unpopular. So we actually strive for the greater good, even if it makes it uncomfortable for ourselves. But we do it because it will lead to an advantage later on for everybody who can benefit from it, you and the ones that are working closest to you. And testers are generally very responsible individuals. They feel a great responsibility towards their assignment, team, and product. They take responsibility trying to understanding the end user and identify risks that could cause harm later. Thinking outside the box and having a bigger perspective of how things actually connect and affect each other. And in some cases, they might actually take on additional tasks and roles formally, or just as a local leader outside the tester role, be it covering for a project manager, team lead, or etc., just because nobody is doing it and somebody has to do it, otherwise they see a risk to the quality. And they are used to work with risks, focusing on and prioritizing what is important, because you can't do it all. Good testers and leaders both know that. So responsibility is a very good characteristic in a leader, and we practice this every day, working with quality assuring and having a tester mindset. And testers try to influence others around them to become better team players and share this common responsibility towards the product and team, especially regarding quality, preventing defects, remember, and trying to make colleagues discover the tester mindset and this desire to develop a high quality product by gently nudging with guidance and coaching. This is also a skill of a leader, the ability to inspire people, to lead them, wanting them to evolve and become better versions of themselves and wanting to become better in their work. So how did I start to work as a project manager? By expanding my skill set, of course, and by being available at the right time when the project manager in my team left, when I was a test manager. And in many cases, a test lead or a test manager is a focused project manager. You set a plan, you execute it, and you follow up and make adjustments, sometimes even have a budget. This is true for both roles, but slightly different focus. And in my case, I was a good candidate because I was already knowing the project and the people, so it was an easy switch. And by having a tester mindset, I would like to claim that you become a better project manager for the company, not only the project you're driving. This by also focusing on the quality of the project, not only the desired functionality to be delivered on a kept budget. It is important, but it's not the only thing. We have all seen many projects that are released on time and budget, but what you then set loose is not always of best quality, and that causes a lot of trouble for the organization, maintaining the product, or facing end users, adding a lot more cost than was actually, and it gets worse unless if compared to if you might have broken the budget or worked with quality better within the project. So you try to take a bigger responsibility in seeing the whole picture more than only releasing products on time and budget. And curiosity. Let me talk a little bit about curiosity, which is one of the prime attributes in a tester mindset. So I'm an impatient person. I want results as soon as I can get, preferably immediately. It has benefited me greatly because it has made me stay focused and daring to try, new steps outside the box in order to achieve my goals. But nothing good without a counteract, right? I also have a natural affinity for strategical thinking, grasping complex projects. I am a natural project leader, looking at the attributes. But joke aside, I'm very happy that when I actually left school, there was a recession, which meant that I did not immediately get a job as a project manager, and instead of starting with testing and discovered that path instead and learned a lot along the way and matured in a different way than I would have if I just got started with project management directly. So it's and that is because of I got to practice and hone the skill set of curiosity. So people are more or less curious. That is a personal trait. But traits can be suppressed or enlightened as life goes on. Kids are naturally very curious, some more than others. But something happens as we grow up. We become cocky, that we have seen it all. We grow stiff in our beliefs. Sometimes it turns into bias and prejudice. And we can get discouraged by authority figures to not ask too many questions, just do because we want results quicker and the path is clear. So a tester, in my opinion, does never conform to that. The tester mindset is to be open-minded and always thinking outside the box, what ifs, and how can a user, for example, misuse a product, and how do users behave? What kind of liabilities lie within new tech and tools, or how can I use new tech and tools to my advantage? Testing naturally attracts curious people. And if I hadn't gone that path of discovering the power of curiosity and evolving it, I would probably be in that kind of project manager that sighs deeply when somebody in the team starts asking, why? When all you want to do is move along, get the kickoff going so you can start working towards the goal as quickly as possible and cross it off the list. So, but since I have been one of those annoying people myself, asking lots of whys every time and all the time, I understand that this doesn't come from bad intentions or negativity or refusal to change or, questioning somebody's professionalism. It is about care, passion, and a will to always be better and execute better, and a drive for creating better possibilities for the product and the team. And who doesn't want that? And it's usually one that uses a tester mindset that is the one asking those questions. So now I encourage all the questions, and I know something is very fishy if I don't get a single why when I suggest a new way forward. So as a leader, you need to understand that everything you do is dependent on others and a team effort, and you are responsible for setting and driving that way forward, but it doesn't mean that you're omnipotent and know all the answers or should know them. Encouraging curiosity in the team by being curious in your own approach, that is gold. So practice curiosity as a tester. It also gives you great benefits as a leader. Okay, so going back to the attributes connected to the tester mindset, it was a superhero-like description, but I would dare to say it's true because it is a very broad role that requires a skill set that is sought after also in other roles. So just as Superman has kryptonite that makes him weak, there are things that we as a person can't handle, no matter the job title. It is why it's so important to always stay curious, imagine yourself in somebody else's shoes, maybe even try a job in somebody else's shoes, daring to go outside our circles and paths. And by doing that, the kryptonites get weaker and doesn't bias as harshly because you learn to better collaborate with different people and roles. And collaboration and improvement, that is what leadership is about, something you can learn by working with quality assurance, as I have told here, and using the tester mindset and skill sets. So thus you become better at leading yourself and or others in always improving quality. And you might even try a different path, but always with quality in mind. So I want you to bring three things with you, and that is the the quality of the system is high, that means that it's fit for purpose. And remember that fit for purpose can mean different things for different people. Low quality is not only the tester's problem. To succeed with quality improvements, you need the whole organization or team to be involved in it and desire it. And that is very handy if you already have a natural leadership in you to initiate that spark. And everybody benefits from a tester mindset, thinking more like a tester. Your products will be more successful and users happier. And everybody is a user of something, so you will always get back yourself, when using other systems, if there was somebody using the tester mindset, creating that product for you. And you will also grow as a professional, no matter your role. So thank you for your attention, and I hope you got inspired to take on new challenges. And I think we move over to question time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Carolina. Let me start with this. I'm a curious person. So
yeah.
Also then about the coaching, normally say start with the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, or start with yourself. But then if you're going to transfer this and coach and make your college going this way, what would you propose or suggest to start with, or what would your idea be?
I have also realized that, looking at entrepreneurs, for example, successful entrepreneurs are really good at identify a need that the market isn't filling, for example. Same thing here. You do your everyday work, and there's always something nagging you. Maybe it's irritating you, it's an inefficiency, you don't understand why this is working a certain way. It could be so much better. And instead of doing what many people do, and that's join in on the nagging, try to think, how could this be done differently, and be the person actually suggesting how to make a change in order to improve. And doing those small baby steps, you then start to get more into it and can take on bigger challenges, doing, leading change in large organizations or in teams, etc. So I would start there, trying to find those, identify the need and try to fix it, and take those small steps and take bigger steps along the way.
We have one person here raising their hand. John Long, would you please then ask your question?
Yeah. If we go back to this, the tester mindset, I actually have one bullet that I feel we could elaborate a bit more.
Yeah, sure.
That is this working to prevent defects. I don't think the whole thing is about preventing. It's more about learning the working or failing state of a product or service under test. So I just want to rephrase that. We want to see the whole picture, and we want to learn about that whole information through performing exploratory testing, or what kind of checks that we might have been automated along the way. Do you agree?
I'm not so sure what the question was, or
there
was a statement. Yeah.
I think this working to prevent defects is a little bit the gateway thinking, that the primary goal of tester there is to find bugs. I don't think so. I think the whole thing about tester,
okay.
The tester is actually to learn the products, provide the whole picture of working and failing state of product and service under test.
The goal and the purpose of a tester is, of course, to ensure or measure the quality of a product, be it automated test cases, regression tests, etc., and give that information back. But what I'm saying here with the tester mindset is not necessarily just a tester that has it. It could be a product owner. It could be your neighbor that has is thinking more about quality by using this tester mindset, and instead of letting things happen because you see an issue. If you walk into a supermarket, for example, and the door to the fridge is open, you just walk past it or you close it. This is the mindset.
Then the question, how do you benchmark quality? you must have some criteria there in the first place.
Yeah, and that's why you need to understand the users and the fit for purpose. Of course, it's very hard to benchmark, but that's one of the challenges with requirements engineering, to write testable requirements. All requirements start very fluffy. You know, we want to maybe take 10% market share. How do we do that? Okay, then you get more functional requirements. Maybe we want to improve the user friendliness of our product, so our users are more happy using it. You know, the goal is to get happy users. Okay, how do we define so we can measure happiness with users? We could be, for example, sending them forms, a rating from 1 to 10, how good they rate our product with the new process added or the new functionality added. We could look at social media, how the general picture is regarding our brand or the product. There's different ways of benchmarking, but it's kind of tricky to actually get to a good measurement. So some KPIs are, of course, not the best, and in some cases, some KPIs are really good. And then you benchmark it and you test against it. But you can never, that's the issue with requirements that are not testable. For example, we want a fast product. What is fast? Fast is very different from person to person. But by defining it, you can test it, and you can benchmark it, and you can, say that maybe a response time of 2 milliseconds, that's fast enough. Okay, if it is below 2 seconds, we're good. We actually have a good quality product because that is fit for purpose for our purpose.
Yeah, and a comment to the requirement part is that there are like obviously words and phrases are standard to define certain things, and there are things that was more like that you have to also to explore from the beginning. It's not like compliance, which often come from authorities that will be quite like what you call it, very restrict rules.
Regulatory,
things. It's more the thinking here, the requirements phase is that make it less dumb and start working. I guess it's more important than make it perfect.
Exactly, good enough. Yeah, good enough.
Yeah.
Fit for purpose once again.
Yeah. I think this discussion can continue. It's an interesting topic here, but also we're running out of time here, so I have to interrupt this one. But there has been a couple of questions in the chat as well. I will not bring them up now, but I hope you maybe can answer them afterwards, because we're going more into measurements and measures for improvements, for example. So please do that, and if you do have any more questions afterwards, please feel free to post them in the chat. But by that, I would thank you very much, Carolina, as many people here already have done, and a very interesting topic. And until then, have a good day, everyone. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.